Hello, welcome back. I stupidly read a review somebody did of one of my Doctor Who books from 26 years ago, and it's quite a long, complete review saying exactly why he hates it so much. And then he posts it on every possible platform for these kinds of things, and it's just one of those things that reminds me of why I should probably never have done Doctor Who books in the first place. But it did make me think that, equally, I know lots of people have come to me and said wonderful things about the same book and the difference it's made for them. So I'm glad of that. And somebody just about in tears at that convention recently telling me about this particular book and how it's their favourite book, full stop, which is very humbling. And that's what you set out to do. You set out to bring people joy with the books you write. That sounds so overblown and almost sentimental, but I think it's true. I think you add to the store of joy in the world with books like those. This review was kind of talking about lightness and how the stuff about pink fluffy frivolity, and it was really annoying actually, and kind of insulting. Anyway, I'm glad that the book has given more people joy than it has made people cross. I tried to write things that were unconventional within Doctor Who books, and that seemed the right thing to do at all the times, all through these years of doing Doctor Who things, to turn over the usual expectations. It's not served me well professionally. I'd be better just fitting in. The people who wrote books that just fitted in, or audios that just fitted in, got work on things like the TV show because they proved that they could fit in, oddly enough. It's just like being picked for games at school. That's why in the end I wish I hadn't done these things, because it does feel a bit like being picked for games at school, which of course I never was. But it did make me think about this fella writing a long, long review to go online. It's maybe 2,000 words. And I thought that, well, in the end, my book has given people joy. Nobody is going to extract joy from your review. Ever. It's just meant to take away any kind of enjoyment. And undermine the enjoyment that people might even feel in the book, should they foolishly find themselves liking it. I've stopped reviewing things because I felt myself teetering over in my 20s and 30s into the kind of reviewer where I wanted to tell people why books weren't good enough or things weren't good enough, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that feeling. Just let people enjoy stuff, find their own thing that they like. Don't piss on people's parades, I think. Maybe it's something when you get into your 30s, I don't know. There's the Jean Cocteau poem about sitting on the top of your house at the age of 30 and looking all around and feeling like you know everything. And of course you don't. I don't know how old this person is doing the reviewing. It just has made me think. And of course, those books and those audios came out the way that I do them, because I can only write with my whole heart in the way that I do things. And sometimes that means turning all the conventions on their head. And people don't always like that, except when they do. Anyway, that's me thinking about that. What else am I thinking about? On Monday, I should dig out the rest of the questions. There were more questions. I did write a little piece today for Facebook, actually, just to go on my Facebook, because I found online a picture of the house that I lived in when I was, there it is, 6 through till 10. It's that bit closest to you in that semi-detached council house. it came up. It was on a estate agent site, actually. Anyway, I wrote this. This is the first house where we lived in Newton Aycliffe, a small new town in County Durham. It must have been 1976 when I was 6, coming up to 7. I went to Wood and Burn Infant School, which was down the hill and over the burn, behind the tall hill where we went sledging in the winter. It was such a lovely infants and junior school. I had really encouraging teachers all through my years there. Mrs. Payne, who set us off doing busy books, writing and drawing whenever we wanted, whenever we had spare time to use, and Miss Booth, who read to us so brilliantly. Everything about living in this house, on this estate, and in this town is still incredibly vivid to me. I can remember one of my aunties getting stuck in the downstairs loo and having to climb out through a tiny window. I remember dressing up as Charlie Chaplin for the Silver Jubilee celebrations. I remember the picture window at the back of the house and the view of the burn and the hills in heavy snow. And that New Year's Eve party with what seemed like the whole family together right at the end of the 70s. It's the place I read Marvel comics and Doctor Who novelizations, where we watched The Little House on the Prairie and Monkey and Starsky and Hutch, where we ate Findus crispy pancakes and flaky pastry steak and kidney pies. It's where we set off from our holiday by Lake Ullswater during the sunniest week ever, and where my dad would come and pick us up to take us away for weekends with him in Durham. The sound of the place is ELO, Jeff Wayne, Kate Bush and Wings doing Mull of Kintyre. It's the second half of the 1970s, and it was here that I first knew that I was going to be a writer. But I also started to realise that it wasn't going to be easy. Not many novelists came from where I did. I got lots of responses on my own page, and then on the Aycliffe page, the Newton Aycliffe page where I posted it, people who lived in streets nearby at the same time talking about growing up there. One woman talking about being a refugee from Chile with 3 siblings, and how her brothers went to the same school as me and they were just a few streets away. It's amazing that ability social media has to put you in touch with people from way back when. Of course, I've put a kind of a happy gloss on those years. There were terrible things that happened in those times as well, and I guess I was concentrating on the good stuff. It's kind of hinted at with the idea of the father coming to take us away at weekends, because it was the place from which he left us alone in the middle of this estate of black houses, and my poor mum left with 2 young kids to bring up in this at times slightly bleak place. Anyway, a touch of nostalgia, of flashing back. And it's also for me to remind myself of not being too hard on myself in terms of, getting on in the world and writing and having a name out there and making a living from it. There's been a few things recently about people in the arts and how mostly they come from, privately educated backgrounds and quite well-off upbringings. And I do have to think about the distance I've come. And how even the people teaching me wouldn't have expected me to make a living in the arts. It just wasn't expected of anybody from where I grew up. And I've said it before, but the day we turned up at the comprehensive school at the age of 11, and all the boys were told, get used to using the machines in the metalwork room, boys, because if you're lucky, you'll get to work in a factory. And I've never forgotten that. On the same day, our English teacher handed out copies of Carrie's War by Nina Borden for us to take away and read and come back and talk about and read aloud. And that was the kind of salvation of me. And being shown the school library by John Bleasdale and taking home more Doctor Who books and taking home Roald Dahl, and that was the salvation of me too. Okay, reading, briefly. I spent yesterday with this. We've talked about the V books before from the mid-80s. This is a few books in. I don't think it was published in the UK. It's The Alien Swordmaster by Sompto Sucharakul. who, it turns out, I've done a little bit of looking up, and is now known as S.M. Somto, I think, and he's a writer from Thailand who writes fantasy and science fiction still. Slightly homoerotic fantasy, if I'm not mistaken, judging by the packaging of especially his series of books about the Emperor Nero, which I must look into. It's amazing that this person is out there doing his thing still. This is a extraordinarily pulpy V novel. It's more kind of Grand Guignol than the original V books. You see the lizards in their natural state, living in Japan and eating human beings and all kinds of animals, and fighting each other and doing martial arts. It's quite action-packed for quite a short, punchy novel, and I did enjoy it. It's kind of crazy, though. We're a long way from the gradual, creepy, political overtones of A.C. Crispin's original novel, V, that followed the series. I got myself a new copy of this recently. My old one vanished a long time ago, probably fell into pieces. Yeah, the kind of Nazi overtones, the America falling into fascism allegory of the original V, something that pays attention, something that rewards attention nowadays. And this is a kind of a knockabout, pulpy thing, but amazing to see that the fella is still going and still doing these things. And I will read some more of S.M. Somto. And I will go looking for the other V novels, hopefully. They're quite expensive because they weren't published in this country. I think the first 4 came out in this country, and I read all of those. But there were lots more, just like Battlestar Galactica. Oh, I read such nonsense, really. I should... No, I'm happy to read what I read and to, as I keep saying, zigzag around the genres and follow my nose. What is it, Socks? You've been fed. I've had to move Socks to the chair by the window, and he's not been happy because I've managed to pull my shoulder by typing, sitting sideways, side saddle on my own armchair to so I don't dislodge the cat while he's asleep on my lap. I knew it would result in disaster one day, and it has, and I've pulled a shoulder. Jeremy sprayed me with deep heat in the garden, and I got some on my tongue. So it's all been fun. Typical Monday here in Levenshulme. Socks, come on. So now I'm possibly going to launch into Airport by Arthur Haley. I began it last night, and we'll see. There's a week left in March, and I've still got half of my March book bag left. They might be dumped, I'm not sure yet. But as I saw Cameron Chaney talk this week about a reading project he's involved with, these are just guidelines. There's no point in making yourself read things you don't want to read. Much better to follow your nose and read for joy, read for enjoyment. And again, I don't think I'd be writing 2,000-word pieces about a book I hated or didn't enjoy that much. That seems like a weird, very odd kind of masochism. Okay, I'm back writing again as well. I wrote 1,300 words this morning on my ongoing memoir, which has made me pleased. I was pleased to get back to morning's work, morning words, as they say. Okay, goodbye. I will see you again soon. I haven't answered the other questions, have I? Keep the questions coming, and I will answer them alongside the ones I've missed out. Okay, goodbye.